Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, scholars. Welcome back. Welcome back. Um, Today I'm going to start where we ended on yesterday. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to grab your materials from yesterday, your sentences that we worked on, pencil, your notebook. So therefore you're able to continue to keep notes. And I didn't say this in Dojo, so I'll post this once I'm done with this lesson. But parents, let's try to get our scholars notebooks so that they're able to keep up with their online notes. So we can get one. That would be awesome. If not, just grab a couple of sheets of paper and just try to keep it together for them. So let me go ahead and share the screen so that you guys can see the PowerPoint. Okay, so again, we're going to start where we ended on yesterday. So if you were not here on yesterday, that's fine. Don't fret. Don't be nervous. Don't get scared. I have the sentences ready to show them, and I'll give you guys an opportunity to work on those sentences as well. Okay, so go ahead and grab your things, and we'll start in a moment. I had a few parents who inboxed me on yesterday asking about the speaker tag. So let me have a quick lesson on this, what the speaker tag is, because knowing the speaker tag and where it's located within the sentence will help you determine where you should place both your quotation marks and your comma. The speaker tags, those are the words as part of the sentence that gives the reader the clue that someone just had a conversation. Someone actually said something. There was direct dialogue. So it oftentimes you'll see the words like he said, there's another he said. Sometimes you may hear, see, she said, he angrily stated, she whispered. They may give you a proper noun for someone's name. John mentioned, Jason screamed, um, lyric, sung. So those are the clues to let you know that's the speaker tag. Can you think of any more speaker tags? Can you think? All right, perfect, perfect. So be sure to share some of the speaker tags that you thought of with your parents on our Dojo classroom page, the message. That would be awesome. So let's look at our first sentence from yesterday. One thing that I love to do, scholars, is to read like the characters. So, we worked on this in class. We're going to continue to do that while we're doing our online lesson as well. So, everything that you know that the person said, that the speaker said, you should sound like the speaker. So, I give you guys a moment to read over the sentence silently because you need to find the clues to let you know the tone of the speaker's voice. And when you find your speaker tag, you go back to your regular voice, our model. So I'm going to give myself a second or two to silently read the sentence to figure out what's going on so that I know how to read it so that I can say it like the character. Okay, so I see the word good idea. So I know that's kind of sound like someone is pretty happy about something. So let's see if I can do this. It's a good idea, he said, to travel together. So I know that there's a guy who mentioned it was a good idea to travel together. Immediately, I know where my speaker tag is. My speaker tag is, he said. What I always like the scholars to do, underline the part of the sentence where someone actually spoke. So I know that it's a good idea to travel together. That's part of the sentence that was actually stated. Everything that's in the sentence that's part of what someone said, a direct quote, those things live inside of the quotation mark. They live in the quotation marks. So that we know we need to have two sets of quotation marks for this sentence because we have two parts of the sentence where someone actually says something. Another part. Now we need to determine where we should place our comma. So if you go back to our hint, it says, remember that the comma before the speaker tag stays inside the quotation mark. Well, he said is my speaker tag. There's my quotation mark. My clue tells me it goes inside of my quotation mark. Let me erase that quotation mark here because it looks a pretty. Oh, it won't erase. All right. So the comma is actually in the inside of the quotation marks. Maybe like, okay. So let's go to our next part of the sentence. It says to travel together. Well, there's my speaker tag. So we know that if you go back again to the hint, but a comma after the speaker tag stays outside the quotation mark. So we know that this comma goes here. There you go. So this is the sentence in its correct form. Let's see if you guys got it. Give you guys a moment to check your work. Okay, so let's look at our next sentence. We have, he said, it's a good idea to travel. Oh, it's a good idea to travel together. He said, it's a good idea to travel together. Well, again, I want us to speak like the character. Everything that was stated, the direct dialogue, you should sound like the person. And then the speaker tag, you go back to your regular voice. He said, it's a good idea to travel together. So you see how my voice fluctuates. It was with my speaker tag, my regular voice, and then when someone had something to say, I tried to sound like the character. He said, it's a good idea to travel together. So I know immediately I need to underline what was said. And I also see a speaker tag. Who knows where my quotation mark goes? Who knows where my comma goes? I'll give you guys a moment. You guys ready? All right, perfect. So we know that we have quotation marks here, here, because everything that was said lives inside of the quotation marks. When you had the funny voice and you tried to sound like the character, you know that lives inside of the quotation marks. But where does the comma go? Well, again, let's go back to our reminder. Remember that the comma before the speaker tag stays inside the quotation marks, but a comma after the speaker tag stays outside the quotation mark. This is my speaker tag, and it comes after. So that means my comma is outside of the quotation mark. Let's see if we're right. Yep. How did you guys do? Want to practice some more? Cool. Let's do some more. So we have, let me clean this. Uh-oh. Okay, so I wanted to clear all the drawing. So we have 3 more practices. And I wanted to use you guys as my example. Aiden, his mother called. Come here now. A test? Lyric answered. Do you need something? I could see Lyric asking that question. I guess not, said Damien. Aiden, his mother called. Come here now. A test? Lyric answered. Do you need something? I guess not, said Damien. I'll give you guys a few minutes to work on all 3 of the sentences. And if you need to go back to the rule, please do so. Just pause the video. Actually, let's go back to the rule. Let's do that. Oh no. Okay. And I'll give you guys a moment to write the rule down. I don't think I gave you an opportunity to do that. So let's go ahead and write the rule, my remembering rule. Give you guys a moment to write that down, and then we'll go back to those sentences. You think that'll work? All right, sounds good. So I think we had enough time. Let's go ahead and move to our next screen. Okay, so we have our 3 sentences here. Again, Aiden, his mother called. Come here now. A test? Lyric answered. Do you need something? I guess not, said Damien. So let me give you guys some more time to work on those sentences, those three sentences, now that we have our rule right in front of us. I'll be back in a moment. Let's work on the first sentence together. Aiden, his mother called. Come here. Again, we need to identify exactly what Aiden's mom said. She said, Aiden, come here now. And we know that the speaker tag was his mother called. So that's our speaker tag. So now that we have exactly what Aiden's mom actually said, we know what lives inside of the quotation mark. We need to determine where our comma goes. So now that we have the speaker tag here in the middle, Aiden there, we know that the comma goes inside of the quotation mark simply because it came before the speaker tag. If you go here, we have his mother called, come here now. The comma goes outside of the quotation mark because of where the direct quotation is in comparison to the speaker tag. Our next sentence, a test lyric answered, do you need something? See how we did. Again, always underline direct quotation. What did lyrics say? Lyrics said a test. Do you need something? So that's the first thing you should underline when you're working on this sentence. Because that's where you place your quotation marks. So we know we have a set of quotation marks here. We have a set of quotation marks there. We have a quotation mark there. We have a closed quotation mark here. Now, where does the comma go? We know where our speaker tag is, lyric answered. We know where the direct dialogue. If the direct dialogue comes before the speaker tag, our comma is inside of the quotation mark. But if it comes after the speaker tag, our comma goes there. However, this was something different because there's a period there. Sometimes, and it's fine, you may have a period to interrupt a direct quote with a speaker tag. You have a period there, there's no comma needed. Let's look at our third. I guess not, Damien said. Okay, we know what Damien said. I guess not. We know that said Damien was my speaker tag. My quotation marks. My speaker tag came after my direct quotation. So my comma lives inside of my quotations before my quotation marks. How did you guys do? You did well? Yay. So let's jump into our reading today. What is it we're going to be doing? So move your language arts sentences to the side, and let's go ahead and pull out our notes from yesterday about poems. About poems. We talked about stanzas, we talked about stanza breaks, and we talked about lines. So today's I can statements. I can write the theme of poems by identifying the main gist of each stanza. So we're going to spend a couple of days working on this because we are having to break down each stanza. Essential question: why do people write poetry? So that's going to be our essential questions for a few more days because we need time to explore what poetry is, and we need to have time to read different poems and identify the main gist and the themes of them. So again, our I can statements. I can write the theme of poems by identifying the main gist of each stanza. Now, before we left for the spring break, for our spring break, remember we started to look at certain parts of text, certain parts of passages to kind of help us figure out what the, okay, put you right there, to figure out what the theme or the main idea is. So remember, we decided we need to look at the title, look for those repeated words and ideas, determine if it's a fiction or a nonfiction, look at text features, how did the character deal with conflict, and the main things. Right? So I'll give you guys an opportunity again to write that in your notebook. So let's go ahead and write the list down in our notebooks because this will help us to determine the main theme for each stanza. You look at the title, you look for those repeated words and ideas. That's a big one. So make sure you put like a huge star around that one. If it's a fiction or nonfiction, we look at the text features. How did the character deal with the conflict and main themes? Let's go ahead and write that. Okay. So we're going to spend time looking at the poem from yesterday, The Loser. I thought that was a pretty cool poem that we can continue to discuss. But before we do that, let's review the terms from yesterday. Stanza, stanza break, and the line. So again, we know that we have two stanzas. We know we have one stanza break. And if I count our lines, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And who remembers from yesterday, do we continue with our counting or do we start with number one with our stanza? If you said if we continue, you're absolutely correct. So we're going to continue. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Let me make sure I'm correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. So we have that. All right. So again, stanza, stanza break, and line. Our lines, they look like sentences if you were reading a regular story, but in poems, they're called lines. A stanza, it looks like a paragraph in a regular story, but in poetry, they're called stanza. And stanza break, that's the break in between your stanzas. It's normally 2 spaces between your stanza. So like 2 spaces. And that's your stanza break. So let's go ahead and discuss how do we find the theme of this poem by looking for the main gist of each stanza. So we are looking at the main gist of each stanza. I want to only pay attention to this stanza right here. Stanza 1. So I'm only looking at the stanza right here. Let me get our marker out, make sure it's working. Okay, good. All right. So this first stanza only is all we're looking at. And we're trying to determine the theme of the entire poem by figuring out the main gist of each stanza. So the gist is what the stanza is mainly about. And if you go back to your notes, we have to look at repeated words. We have to look at the title. We have to look at how the characters may have dealt with a particular problem, what was said over and over again, like what's the main idea. So that's the main gist. What was it mostly about? So let's look at this stanza, the first stanza. Again, we're going to look at the title, The Loser. And remember, looking at illustration really helps the reader as well, give you an idea of what's happening. So in this illustration, I have this crazy looking person who's sitting on his head. And if I look at his face, he looks kind of confused or scared. I think confused probably. He looks really confused. So let's go ahead and start reading. The Loser. I'm going to give you guys a moment to read the first stanza, and then I'll read the first stanza after you. The Loser, again, by Shel Silverstein. Mama said, I lose my head if it wasn't fastened on. Today, I guess it wasn't, because while playing with my cousin, it fell off and rolled away, and now it's gone. Kind of weird, right? Let's see what the author of this story was really trying to say to us. What's going on with this little boy? So I'm going to read it one more time. Mama said, I lose my head if it wasn't fastened on. Today, I guess it wasn't, because while playing with my cousin, it fell off and rolled away. And now it's gone. I wonder if this reader was actually talking about his head. That's really cool about poetry. You can have so much fun with your words and make things happen that will not ever happen in real life. So that's one reason why people love to write poetry. You can use your imagination and be crazy with what you want to say. But let's go back. What's the main gist of this poem right here? Well, I see Mama talking. Mama said, I lose my head. So it sounds like his mama really don't trust him. She said, if You'll lose your head if it wasn't fastened on. Well, sometimes when parents say you will lose your head if it wasn't fastened on, they're saying that their child is probably careless and forgetful. So immediately in my gist, I am going to put what mom thinks of her child. And I know that the person speaking in this poem is a child because he said, Mama said. So I am going to type how mom thinks of her child. And I'm going to type it. I'm not going to write it. So we can put Mama feels her son is careless. And we know that because mom said, I'm going to go back and underline my text. Remember, we love to underline our text. Go back into the text and underline why we're saying what we're saying. So I'm going to go back to my text and underline why I feel mom feels her son is careless. So mom said, I lose my head if it wasn't fastened on. That's a clue. Are there any more clues to tell you that this boy is probably careless? That's probably why mom said what she said. I'll give you a moment to go back into the text to see if you can discover anything else to support what mama feels about her son. If you said today, I guess it wasn't because while playing with my cousin, it fell off and rolled away and now it's gone. Well, that's a clue within the text to tell you, hey, he's not careful. He's very careless. And that's why mom feels the way she feels. But we also know in poetry, that's not what really happened, right? That's called figurative language. It means something else. I wonder what it means. What is mom saying about her son? Did his head literally fall off? Think time. I'm back. Well, if you said something like, he may have gotten distracted or he did something he wasn't supposed to do, or while playing with his cousin, he drifted away, then you're right. His head really didn't fall off. No, it didn't literally fall off. But it sounds to me that he's really careless and forgetful, and he gets distracted very easily. I wonder if that's what the author, Shel Silverstein, was thinking when he wrote this poem. I wonder if he's thinking about himself when he was a kid. Pretty cool. Let's look at our second stanza. And remember, scholars, our second stanza is right here, the group of lines. And I'm going to give you a moment to read the second stanza to yourself. And I'll read it after you, and we will discuss the main gist. Me again. And I can't look for it because my eyes are in it. And I can't call to it because my mouth is on it. Couldn't hear me anyway because my ears are on it. Can't even think about it because my brain is in it. So I guess I'll sit down on this rock and rest for a minute. So let's go ahead. I'm going to get ready to type. What is the main gist here? I'm going to bring it down so that we know that we're writing for this stanza. And I'm going to change the color. Again, we're talking about the second stanza. What's happening here? Think time. It sounds to me like he's looking for his head. He's trying to remember what he forgot. He's trying to get back on track. So I can type the sun uh, so the sun wants to get back on track. How do we know that? What's the evidence within the text to tell you that he wants to get back on track? Think time. If you felt, because my eyes, oh, let's get out of there and get into the drawing. Okay. If you see him stating, my eyes are in it, yes, let me change the color back to red because I don't want to confuse you guys. So let's do that. Erase this. And perfect. So my eyes are in it. My mouth is on it. My ears are on it. My brain is in it. Those are ways to tell me, those are all of the examples from the text that lets me know that he wants to get back on track. He's thinking about getting back on track, but it sounds like he has a lot of excuses why he can't get back on track, right? And then it says, so I guess I'll sit down on this rock and rest for a minute. Does it sound like he got back on track? Did it sound like he was able to get himself together? Think time. If you said no, you're absolutely correct. Doesn't sound like he was able to gain control. He wasn't able to return to his normal self. He wasn't able to get it together. So for this second stanza, I'm going to put the son wants to get back on track. He was never able to refocus. So I guess how the old saying goes, mom's always right. His mom was right here. So I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. Tomorrow we're going to continue with our poetry and you guys will get the opportunity to write poems. So moms, if you are able to, get scissors for tomorrow's lesson, a colored ink pen or a marker for tomorrow's lesson. And if you have colored paper, construction paper, or just regular paper would be fine. so that we can write our own poem. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed today. And don't forget, continue working on your sentence structures. Continue working on those, sorry, speaker tags, quotation marks, where to place the commas. Love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.